Day, I may try putting a hot dog on a hook to see if I can catch a bass. Because they will eat just about anything that swims, crawls, wiggles, or just lays there dead. I mean, they'll eat it. So when you approach these fish, when you approach the idea of fishing the bay, you're not really, don't give the bass too much credit. Again, it comes back to the resident fish. Bass are where you find them. You find the structure, you find the bait, you're going to find the fish. If you find the fish, they're usually not too hard to fool. Now, that being said, they can be picky at times. At times they can get really stuck on a specific profile. It can be hard to match the profile. And yes, I think it was William Muller spent, I don't read a lot of I don't read any how-to books. And I read some articles in the fisherman. William Muller, I think, was the guy who talked a lot about the bass's moods when they're actively feeding and when they're neutral. And I buy into that to a good extent. But I don't think that, I don't think neutral fish won't eat presented. You just got to put it in their face. I mean, I've had plenty of times where I've caught fish through a whole tide. They weren't neutral at all, anywhere on that tide. Now, they wouldn't go very far from where they were. If you missed your spot, you're not catching fish. You can miss it by 10 yards, and you can be there all night, casting. There ain't no fish here. You go home. You put it in their face, they'll chew. So, I mentioned something to Kevin one time. He got all like he thought it was a pretty good saying. I mentioned something about catching. Think in terms of feeding fish, not catching fish. Just think in terms of giving them something to eat. I mean, we sort of make catching bass tougher than it needs to be. And I mean, I read an article. Again, I may sound condescending here, and I don't mean to be, but when I was talking about neutral fish, I was reading an article on the internet. Some guy was reminiscing about the old days, and, the old-timers frequently do. And they were talking about, I had this popper that was the only popper that would work that night. I was raising fish from 20 feet from the bottom, and I would cast 50 times, and I would piss this bass off, and finally it would come up and hit. Why would you do that? Why not just put something in its face? Why are you trying to bring a fish 20 feet off the bottom? Put something 20 feet down, then you got something. All right, so let's see, various bites. My simple rule of thumb is this. When I come up on a spot, particularly when I'm learning a new spot, I figure those fish are either looking up or they're looking down. And they're either on big bait or they're on small bait. So I carry around a small but effective set of profiles that covers all of that territory. Up, down, large, small. And I work it and I see if I can figure out.